Have you noticed that our culture has become more intolerant as time seems to have gone by? I mean, seriously, like the level of judgment and the level of hate that has risen up inside of our culture is quite shocking to me. To me, it seems like a sign of major immaturity. What should we do about it? In fact, I have a question for you. Are you one who is open to other people with other points of view? Are you somebody that is totally intolerant? What do you do when you do not agree with somebody else's point of view? What do you do when you don't agree with the way somebody dresses or the color of their skin or their political point of view, their financial status? How do you respond to that? How do you respond even to family members that you do not agree politically with each other? Or you don't agree even on how to spend money or raising your children? Or one of you is for alcohol, one of you is completely against it. How do you deal with that kind of conflict when you are engaging with other people that maybe don't possess the same exact mindset that you do? Or are you one of those people that you just have decided, I'm just going to hang out with everyone who thinks like me? You know, there are people who actually do that. There are people that they purposely surround themselves with people who think the same way they think. Well, let me tell you, friend, that could be a huge problem. Why? Well, birds of a feather flock together, right? Come on, your grandmother told you that. Birds of a feather flock together. So what, Danny? What does that matter? Well, it does matter. Do the people you've surrounded yourself with have the life that you want? Do they have the level of happiness, fulfillment, and satisfaction that you want? If you want financial freedom, do those that you have flocked with, do they have financial freedom? Are you living the same way they are financially? Are you living the same way they are in the work life? What about their marriage? What's the quality of their marriage? Is it passionate, harmonious, and hot? Or is it boring or average? What about their kids? Are their kids the kind of kids that you want? With the kind of same attitudes that you want? Friend, I learned a really long time ago. You see, I was a homeless woman 21 years ago, and prior to that, I was a kid who grew up in a really violently abusive home. I grew up in a godless home. I grew up in a place where I was molested weekly, sometimes daily. I grew up in a place where drugs were a higher priority than myself and my sisters. I grew up feeling completely insignificant. I grew up knowing I was a failure, that I was stupid and I could do nothing right. I was surrounded in this environment that was toxic. And when I started off in life, guess what I began to do? Hang out with people just like the ones I had grown up with. Until this one day where I said, no more. I don't want anything to do with where I came from. And I found a totally different group of people to surround myself with. And they began to help form my mind, to think differently about people, to think differently about myself, to think differently about money, about life, about business, about marriage, about the possibilities of who I could be and where I could go in life. I'm so grateful for flocking with some different birds, especially at 19 years old. In fact, I honestly don't even think I'd be alive today had I did not meet this group of people and I had not attended these training seminars that really challenged the way I thought about everything, that really challenged me about how I lived and really exposed to me the thoughts that were in my head. You know, so oftentimes we have things that are going through our head and we don't even think about it. I was the most prejudiced person back then. I was that person who, if you did not fit basically even if you did fit my mold, I was jealous of you. I hated you and I didn't trust you. So if you had different color skin, I didn't trust you either. And if you were a guy, I didn't trust you. If you were a woman, I didn't trust you. I literally hated everybody. And it took a multimillionaire to challenge me with that mindset. I was just one person sitting in a crowd with a whole bunch of other people. And literally, this is what he said. You will not succeed if you don't learn to love people. And I'm like, oh, forget it. Forget about it. There's no way. I mean, I'm done. I'm a failure. There's no way. I hate people. Well, people who hate people are people who are intolerant of others. And I'm seeing a whole lot of this kind of hatred that's happening. Friend, I'm going to tell you that if you want to succeed, you cannot be intolerant. You cannot be closed-minded. If you want to win this year and win big, as we've been talking about all year round, playing to win, and I'm telling you, if you're going to win, win big. It is impossible to win if you are intolerant, closed-minded, judgmental, and prejudiced. It's impossible. You cannot. You want to succeed big, and win for the long haul, then you've got to perhaps change a few things in the way that you think. So we've asked this question out to our audience. How do you respond when someone thinks differently than you, looks differently from you, acts differently from you? What is your response? We've had a few people that have the courage to call in and to share that with us. We're first going to Jen in California. Jen, welcome to the Dani Johnson Show.
Hi, Dani. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
And honestly, the first thing that I thought of was, well, you know what? I used to be very intolerant of other people's opinions.
Tell me about that. How were you intolerant of other? How did that look? Like, how did that sound?
I just didn't deal with them. I would not hang out with them. I would go to a different group, or I would just be a loner. And then I was fortunate to meet somebody who basically shattered my ego and said, you know what, if you're not going to learn from other people, you're never going to be successful in life.
Yep.
And so that kind of opened my mind. And over the past 15 years of dealing with personal development and growth,
Yep.
I'm like, well, you know what, I should actually listen to their side of the story and see before I make a judgment call on if I need to hang out with them or not.
Yep.
But who am I to judge them if what they're doing works for them and they're happy? I have no place in that to judge them.
That's right. That's right. And perhaps they have something that you wished you had.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So, and learning from them and surrounding myself with people who actually have what I want and are cheering me on, they're encouraging me, they're, making my dreams bigger and bigger all the time. Like,
wild?
You're going for small stuff, Jen. Like, come on, we could do better than that. Let's do this.
Wow.
And so they keep doing this year after year. And I'm like, wow, who would have known that I would have traveled the world? I would have owned the cars that I had. I would live in the most amazing places that I have. And just the group of friends that I get to surround myself with every day. It's unbelievable what my life looks like today versus back then.
So do you feel that your lack of success back then, like intolerant, like you couldn't listen to anybody else's opinion, and if they weren't like you couldn't hear them. Do you feel that is why you were not successful?
Yes, absolutely.
Isn't that wild?
I also came from a very broken family, a broken home, and I was told, you're stupid, don't bother, why try, you're an idiot. So what you were saying about your story is I can relate. Mm-hmm. And seeing your success also encourages me to, be open-minded to things, listen and see, try it. And if it doesn't work out for you, okay, that's all right. Move on.
Mm-hmm. Because we're all going to have failures in our life, and we have to guess sometimes. We have to try new things. We've got to take those risks. And it's amazing how much actually from traveling the world, how much I've learned from other cultures and other mindsets that just like ping me in my own mindset. And it's challenging, like, whoa, because you find these, if you will, I call them tracks. I don't know why I call them tracks, but they're like tracks in your head. It's kind of like train tracks is how I see it. And so it's like these train tracks of beliefs. They're these train tracks that take you to a place that you don't even really want to go to. You know what I'm saying? Like, wait a second, why do I think like that? Why do I believe that? What is that really serving me to believe that? And where did that come from? And when I look back on my life, I look at all of these, if you will, campaigns that have been in my head. All of these, especially from church, Jen, especially from church. All these kind of church slogans and church campaigns and all these marketing campaigns that I got from my spiritual life that when I really looked at them, I'm like, whoa, that doesn't even say that in the Bible. Wow, where did that come from? That's a slogan. And I've built my life around this slogan that is not even true. So as I've traveled around the world and I meet people of all different types of faith, to be honest with you, and I see where they find happiness and where they find joy or how they live out their work life. Even this, Jen, traveling to the poorest of poor places, like India, like Nicaragua, like Haiti, the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere, okay? We're talking India, like 1 billion people, 1.2 billion people, most of which is insanely poor. And seeing that, wow, they've got joy on their face,
Mm-hmm.
laughter in their voice. Yes, some of them are hurting, but it's just like here. We have some that are hurting and some that are joyful. But that, whoa, stuff doesn't make you happy.
Right.
You know, like
True.
I've learned actually, Jen, more from the poor than I have from any educated, any successful person. I've learned more from the poor. I've had more like heart checks. I've gained more wisdom from them. I've been more inspired than any seminar I've ever been to, than any book I've ever read by some smart millionaire. Like, forget about it. Nothing compares to the personal development I've had than from spending time with the extreme poor. I've learned more from them than anybody, which is like crazy, isn't it? Wouldn't we have like judgment against the poor? Like, what are you, lazy? Like, what's wrong with you? Well, you're dumb. How come you didn't? You know what I mean? That's our tendency when we cross over status walls, right? Of you who've become very successful. And then we look at, you know, the guy that's homeless. Like, there's even something we can learn from him. It's really powerful. Jen, thanks so much for sharing. I'm happy to hear that you walked away from your past. You walked away, girlfriend, from hearing those things that you're stupid, that you'll never amount to anything, you can't do anything right. Why even try? Like, oh, that's a painful one. Heard that one. I'm so proud of you that you found personal development 15 years ago, and because of that, you've put that into practice. You're reprogramming, you're retracking your brain, and those new tracks have brought fulfillment and great relationships and success and money and status and all of that stuff. Really, really proud of you that you didn't remain closed-minded. I think it's really, really awesome. Okay, we've got Michael from San Diego. Michael, what about you? What happens when you are around people that you don't agree with? What is your response?
So for me, it's very much of a case-by-case basis, and it depends who they are, their relationship to me, and also what they're saying. Because you're right what you said in the introduction, that this is a time where people on every side are more polarized than probably ever before in our recent history. Mm-hmm. But sometimes there are some things, I'll give you an example in a second, that are so evil that hopefully everyone can agree not to tolerate them.
Right.
But I'll give you first an example of a time when someone disagrees, but I can get along with them. So I am the only Christian in my family. Mm-hmm. I was raised in a family of Jewish atheists, essentially, which they all still are. They all voted for an opposite candidate to who I voted for. So there's, as you can imagine, every topic under the sun is basically banned at family gatherings because that's how we can get along with each other.
Jeez.
And focus on the holiday or the meal or whatever we're there for. Mm-hmm. So if someone's your family and you disagree on something, I think it's important to put the family aspect of it first before the opinion thing.
Yeah.
But, and this is kind of a dark topic, but I saw just on Facebook this morning when I was talking to your person in the chat box, actually, this was on my news feed, there was some TED Talk where now they're trying to say that pedophilia is just another sexual orientation that's perfectly normal.
Whoa.
And that's something that I know. This was a TED Talk this morning. So that's something that, I'm going to be intolerant about that. I'm not going to have someone like that in my life, either the people who believe it or the people who are pushing it or putting these people on stage to try and act like this is a normal, okay thing, because that's just evil. So like my parents can all vote for Hillary and I can disagree with that, but I'm not going to say you are objectively evil human being.
Right.
But then this thing I saw this morning, I mean, how could you possibly tolerate that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Wow, man. Okay, now I'm really proud of you that you have the maturity to pick your battles, if you will, with your family. And I got to tell you, for the longest time, especially when I was like first trying to learn how to become successful, Michael, and I was like so guarded against, negativity, and I was so guarded against anyone's opinion that I couldn't handle, honestly. It was really about opinions that I couldn't handle, especially opinions about me. Like, oh gosh, like that was like the quickest way to put me into a depression, hide in a corner, cover my head with some covers and eat some popcorn or starve myself or throw up or something. Like it was just a really bad thing. I was so weak emotionally and mentally and spiritually. And so I'm proud of you that you have found a balance, if you will, with your family, and that family is more important than the opinion, right? And loving and honoring them. And the fact is, you guys, they serve the same God you do. They just don't realize it. That's in all reality. I mean, they're of the seed of Abraham. Psh, hello. The promise and the promises of Abraham is still in their very bloodline. It's still on their life, regardless if they want to recognize him or not. So anyway, so on that note, so as far as going into the TED Talk thing, like my initial thing is like, yeah, like that is like intolerable, right? But I have to tell you this. I do not tolerate that. Hello, I was molested as a child, okay, by my stepfather, okay? Hello. So like I have a personal wound with pedophilia. I get that. And I think that if you and I were face-to-face with somebody that has, and by the way, I've been face-to-face with others who have done that to children. And as a believer in the Messiah, I am always faced with my righteous indignation that I hope is righteous against what is evil, and the love of Yeshua. And that moment,
of course,
and in that moment, I am either going to be the religious bigot face to face with that person, and or I am going to love with the love of my Father in heaven and be gracious and compassionate and try in some way to extend mercy, not to tolerate the action, but mercy to the individual so I can gain understanding and perhaps have some kind of a footing of influence to say, you're loved. And the reason why you've gone in this direction is because you're confused.
Well, I agree with you. In a one-on-one setting, if the person is, they can recognize their illness. And, of course, probably the hardest thing about our faith, for those of us that are trying to practice it, is that distinction between the sinner and the sin, right? To love the sinner but hate the sin.
Exactly.
But I still think that's different from trying to make it a cultural norm.
No.
When sin becomes a cultural norm or enshrined in law, that's something that I think we can be very righteously angry about.
Absolutely.
And I think what you're saying is important, that you have to separate that from the individual love that you show them.
Yeah.
But we still have to protect the kids.
No question. No question. I'm 1,000% with you on that. And even on that note, it's like this. It's the time of Isaiah, right, where he said that this time was coming. And again, we see even with Yeshua, who said in this wicked generation that evil would be called good. And that's what's going on with what you're talking about, right? That pedophilia is a sexual preference, and it's being thrown in that entire disgusting thing. So here we have that evil is being called good, and that which is good is being called evil. And that's the times that we are living in. Clearly, the times that we're living in. So I'm really happy that you told me about this, because I have to make a choice from my heart perspective to see the lost person who is so confused, who is believing, and now their actions are being condoned, that even with the hurting of these children, listen, I suffered for, a long time, suffered because I was molested, suffered with all kinds of issues in my identity because I was molested. I think we need to do a show on it so we can now bring an answer to the other side, right? Let's have the victims who've been molested talk about pedophilia and how it hurt them. But also having compassion towards the one that is lost, and that God still even loves that one and wants to bring them into the fullness of healing and restoration and the fullness of them understanding their identity. We stand against children being harmed, and we hate this particular action. But we love and choose mercy over the one who has done it. But we stand firm that this is evil. It is not right, and it is not condoned. And it cannot be something that is accepted culturally here. And I think that's the big thing that believers, the big mistake that they've made in standing against something they have judged ruthlessly, and forgetting that there's a human behind the action, and what has driven that human to that action is very, very sad. My dad the one that molested me. My cousin molested me, and some stranger molested me when I was 3. My dad was badly abused. And I know that his sister, who was handicapped, she had palsy, she was molested. And my dad would hear that. And he hated his father for it. And in that hatred of his father for molesting his handicapped older sister, what did my dad end up doing with me? So it's out of the judgment, and you know what the Bible says, that judge not lest you become what you judge. That's where we have to be careful with our own heart. You know what I mean? Stand against the evil.
Yeah.
Love and bring compassion to that person who is suffering. And at the same time, most importantly, guard our hearts against judgment, because we will become what we judge. We will become what we judge. We will become what we judge. Just as we can judge the atheist family members that we have, we can judge the addicts that are in our family. You know what I'm saying? And we will become what they are. That's a law in the Bible, that he wrote that law. And none of us have the right to judge. We can stand against evil. We need to love the one who is lost and confused. And of course...
Well, I guess the silver lining on all this, then, is plenty of opportunities coming up in the near future to practice mercy and love.
Amen. Gosh, Michael, that brings tears to my eyes. Michael, that's dead on. That's absolutely dead on, because you and I both know that the church and the way that she responds and judges has caused more people to walk away. That's the truth.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
It really is tricky. It really is tricky. So I'm with you that I stand against evil. Oh God, do I stand against evil? But I also stand against my judgmental heart, that I do not want to be that person. And I want to be a safe place for that pedophile to come to say, I need help. I need help. I need help. I don't know why this urge is happening to me. I don't know why this is going on, but I need help. And I've seen that happen. There has been many people that struggle with all kinds of things who have come to us, and we've been able to point them in the right direction for them to have freedom. And I know that's the heart of God. That right there is the heart of God. Michael, thank you so much for being one that stands against evil, and one who has used wisdom on how to deal with your family who has totally different religious beliefs than you do. I admire you and I respect you greatly. And I also admire the wisdom that you carry between the sin and the sinner. I think that's so incredibly valuable, and as well as seeing the silver lining that there's lots of opportunity moving forward to show mercy and grace. And my hope is that we will have people who are suffering or living in this pedophilia lifestyle, that even when they hear that TED Talk, they're going to have something in their spirit go, this is just not right. This is just not right. I suffer from so much guilt and pain because of this, and that they reach out to get help. I know how much guilt my dad suffered from, my stepfather. I know how much guilt. How do I know? He's a drug addict. He couldn't handle his emotions. He couldn't handle the guilt and the shame that he carried every single day because of what he had done to my mother, what he had done to me, what he had done to my sisters. He couldn't live with it. He died as a drug addict. And in my opinion, at a very young age. 65 is too young to die. And so that torment that he lived with, even after I forgave him, even after I told him I forgave him, that torment that he lived with, that he suffered from, caused him to do every kind of drug you can imagine under the sun. And so his sin found him out. His sin found him out. And so that broke my heart to see the suffering that was in him. And again, he was my abuser. So anyway, I just pray that all of us can have the maturity to love the humans and to help be a safe place to lead them into freedom. Lead them into freedom. Lead them to our Father, so that the tormentor cannot continue to torment any longer. So anyway, friend, I want to close with this. I want to talk to you about this. This is really interesting because here's some common traits of intolerant people. According to exploringyourmind.com. I think this is really important for all of us because I think we all need a mind check, a mouth check, and a heart check, a gut check now and again. So intolerant people, they need to correct, dominate, and always impose their point of view, which, by the way, is manipulation. That right there is manipulation. I'm going to say it again. They have the need to correct, dominate, and always impose their point of view. Number 2, an intolerant person will have a hard time accepting someone else's success. which means they're very insecure. Intolerance is a sign of insecurity because that person will always be on a different level, and as a result, their level is wrong. So an intolerant person doesn't like it when they see people succeed. They don't like it. They're intimidated by it. They're intimidated even if someone's on the same level. So an intolerant person needs to one-up somebody else. And by the way, that's a sign of insecurity. And by the way, that doesn't lead to success. That leads to failure. That leads to failure in personal relationships. That leads to failure in work relationships. And then here's the funny thing. The intolerant person in the workplace says, man, for some reason, I just can't seem to get a raise. It's time to look in the mirror, friend, and see why. If you are intolerant of others that are around you, that's why you're never going to move into a management role. And if you're in a management role, you're not going to be able to move to an executive level if you're intolerant of other people. If you study successful people, you're going to find that they are very tolerant. They're very understanding. They like to learn from other people's points of view. Number 3, they grab on tight to their routines, things they know well, and that give them security and peace. Otherwise, they get stressed or frustrated extremely easily when they're not stuck to their routine. Last, they don't listen, so they don't open up to others' circumstances. They don't open up to other people's positions, other people's ways of thinking. So the world is very black and white to intolerant people. If that is you, come on, friend, do a gut check, do a mind check, because that makes you someone that's closed off from others, which means you close off the hand of blessing from heaven on your life. That means you close off the hand of promotion from entering your life. And that means that you're going to be stuck. And ruts and being stuck suck. They suck. Have you ever felt like you're like connected to cement, that your feet are in cement and you want to move but you can't move? You got to look in the mirror. And if you're intolerant, you need to confess it. Because I'm going to tell you who's not intolerant. Our Father in heaven. Yes, he corrects sin, no question. But I'm telling you, he is gracious and compassionate. He's rich in mercy, and he's slow to anger. Where's the proof? Look at you. Look at your life. Look at mine. If I was God, I'd be dead. Okay, do you understand? Because I don't have the same kind of tolerance that he has. I don't have the level of mercy and grace and slow to anger. I wish I did, but I'm a little quick on some of those things, and that's not good. And working on that stuff on a daily basis, I'm so much better than I used to be. Oh my gosh. So friend, look in the mirror. Because we want to be a conduit, a safe place for people to come to. We don't want to condone evil, but we want to be showers of mercy and a safe place where people can come that they can change their lives. And we've worked hard on that. And I believe that largely we've become that. We got lots of intolerant people against us, I'll tell you that right now. And if you think I'm a liberal, I'm not. I'm a nothing. And when it comes to politics, don't even try to put me in a box with that, because I'm not in any box. There's lots I disagree with every single party, and I think it's all about division. But my point is this. I choose love. I choose love. And it's not always easy to choose. I choose love, and I choose to guard my heart from judgment, because judgment has gotten me in lots of trouble in my life. And if you want less trouble in your life, you want to learn to gain understanding, and you want to learn to walk in the way of our true Father in heaven. And that's with patience and understanding. And I believe that we can stand against evil without judgment. We can stand against evil in love, in doing the right thing. There's no question about that we can do that, and the Bible shows us exactly how to do that. All right, that's it for me today. Thank you so much for joining us. If you want more content like this, all you got to do is go to the website, DannyJohnson.com. It's right there. Every single day, a brand new show is posting right there. It's on television as well as radio, but you can get it right there for free right on our website, and I encourage you to do that. And please leave us a comment. Let us know. Let us know how you've enjoyed the program. Let us know if you want more of this kind of content, insight, or whatever. If you've got any questions, you can go ahead and email us, or you can come over to our Facebook page, Danny Johnson Live. That's the same on Instagram and Twitter, as well as YouTube. So thanks so much for joining us today. Have a great one. Bye.
If this episode was an encouragement to you, go to DannyJohnson.com and share it with your friends now. You never know who else needs to hear it. This has been The Danny Johnson Show. Join us every weekday at 7 a.m. for more insights that will help you get to the life you've always wanted.